Peter, left brain, right brain.
Good evening to you all. It is such a privilege to be with you again. I'm going to try to work through these emotions. My neurologist said, just to preview a little bit, I had a stroke this past year on January 23rd. And they checked my carotid arteries and no, they're clean. And they said, well, your stroke was in your left brain stem. I'm going, and at the time I went, it's the left brain because my music's in my right brain. And and I said, well, why did I use my left hand, which is not my dominant hand? Because the left hand was doing this kind of stuff and not there at all. So I got dressed clumsily when I woke up that morning, and I guess I better tell the whole story now. and I was not really balanced well, but I got dressed and went down, and the first thing I did was to go to the piano. And I diagnosed my stroke when I started playing like this. And the left hand went fine, and the right hand's doing this stuff. Just not there at all. I'm going, wow, Melanie, something happened last night. So fortunately, she took me to the hospital, and I actually was diagnosed with a stroke and the whole thing, and had some fabulous doctors, amazing. And one of the things that they diagnosed with the stroke is that she said you have, and there's a medical, a Latin medical term for this, but she says basically you are experiencing right now, and it will go on for quite some time until you get past it. It just takes time. You can't force it, anything at all. You have what they call emotional incontinence, which is the combination of the brain just goes, oh, I can cry or I can laugh. And it's not controlled sometimes. I can watch a TV show, even the news, and start crying. You're right, exactly. You're right. We cry for that reason, but at the same time, cry because I'm moved to tears about what's going on, about Ukraine, about whatever. And fortunately, I'm at home with Melanie, and she understands all this. But then there are times where I was on a Bible study reading I do with my friends out on the West Coast. About 25 of us read the Bible every day. And I was reading one of the chapters, and they've delegated me to read the chapters that get into the begat, with all the Hebrew names, because I've been directing a choir for a temple for the last 50 years, and I've heard these names pronounced, and I know how to pronounce them. So, and they said, you take it, Peter, because we're more likely to say, well, let's skip this chapter. and I don't blame them, because they're just really challenging names. But the fabulous part of it is that the Hebrew language is a beautiful language when we don't force it through the little square peg of our language. It doesn't belong there, and it shouldn't be there. And so understanding what the pronunciations are, for instance, just real quickly, and then I've got to get on to the talk, or I'll be all night with you. But the beginning is, the vowel sounds are signed as A, sounds like ah, like AH or father or whatever, all right? So every time you see an A, it's ah, never an A. So you take, like Abraham, right? We have three occurrences of the same vowel in the same word, and we choose a different pronunciation for every one of those A's. A, ah, eh. And it's just not right? So it's always ah. Now, to add one little more wrinkle to the cause is that his name in Hebrew is not Abraham, which would be normal in that pronunciation. It's actually Avraham, because the majority, I'm saying high 90s%, when there's a single B, if it's not the first letter of the word or city, it's actually a V instead of a B. The two letters B and V look almost identical when you look at the Hebrew letters. So that's just an aside. I'm not forcing you to start, speaking Hebrew all day long. But what I'm saying is that it's not that difficult if you get into these soft vowels. So ah is the first letter. Eh is our E, like E in bed or met or fed. Eh, right? Ah, eh. The I is always the I is always E, just like our letter E, although we have about 5 pronunciations for the letter E in our language. Always E, or for the I. O is at least in the Midwest, we tend to get into O and create a diphthong with the O and then a U at the end of it. O. That's not there. It's more of an A sound, so you go, oh. That's the Hebrew letter for O. And then U, like we often say Uriah. It's actually Uriah. It's never U as in Y-O-U. It's always U as in the 2 O's in food. U. A-E-O-U. That's it. No other pronunciations for letters in all the Hebrew letters. Real plain and simple. So that'll help you. Then the one last thing I'll share, and then I've got to get going. Let me get my mind here together. The accented syllable is almost always the penultimate syllable of the name or the city. Penultimate meaning next to last. Ba 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 ba. All right. Or if you have one syllable, accent the same syllable, right? 2 syllables, accent the first syllable because it's the second last syllable, right? 3 syllables, accent the middle syllable because it's the second last. 4 syllables, accent the third syllable. 5 syllables, accent the fourth syllable. So it's always the penultimate accent. And then you're going to start sounding like you speak Hebrew. And it's that simple. It's amazing if we put those rules in front. Now, the hardest part is saying, oh, I've always pronounced it Abraham. And so changing is hard. We all know that, don't we? But if you choose to do it and want to sound like your the Jewish-speaking person or Hebraic-speaking person, just put those vowel sounds in and you'll have it made, all right? So that's enough of that. So regarding the stroke, I went to the hospital for 3.5 days, and they took me to a continuing care center. At first, I was sitting there going, 3 days in the hospital, I've not had a shower, I don't feel good, things are crazy, and it's really busy around there too. And they said, we think it would be good if you went to a rehabilitation center. I go, oh, I wanted to go home. Yeah. And they said, this is really great. And if we can check and make sure your insurance covers it, and you can go there, it'll be incredibly helpful to you. And so I said, okay. I was depressed for about 30 seconds. And then I said, I'll go with you. You know more than I. So they put me in the back of an ambulance late at night. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I go to the continuing care center. And the trip took about 7 minutes. I couldn't see where we were going. It was dark. I had no idea. They checked me into my room that night, found the bed. Okay, here we are. And if you need anything at all, push that little white button. Don't get out of bed alone. You're on a wheelchair or bed only, and we have to be here when you transfer from one to the other. So they allowed me to have that privilege. And I said, okay, I will do everything you say. I'm here because you're here to take me from me, and I'm grateful. The staff was incredible. Careful, Peter. I thought that the 40 people in that staff were my best friends that I just had the privilege of meeting. They just, every time they walked in the room, they were just terrific. And so I got to know them real well, and I'd greet them when they came in the room, and then especially when they came in the room in the morning and they said, can you tell us your pain level? Now, I'd heard the gentleman in the room across the hall. He had a loud voice like I do. And so they'd ask for his pain level. Now, he had fallen on some black ice on a sidewalk and broken his pelvis in 2 places. He had fractured his hip and broke his arm. So when they asked the pain question, he says, 8. So I felt horrible to say, oh, mine's nothing. So I would say, come here, nothing. And they say, why are you doing this? I don't want him to hear this. Because the only thing I had was that this hand did this, and then my right leg was there. Now, the concept that when I said, I'm glad it's my left brain, but then I realized, oh, wait, the left brain controls my dominant hand and the right leg. Fortunately for me, the right leg is not my dominant leg. The left leg is. It's actually a ½ inch longer than the right leg, so it gets priority. And now, the only trouble I have is that if I'm walking and the grass is like this, and I'm walking this way, I've got that lack of balance, and the right leg is shorter, and so I might fall for you if you could. No. Anyway, probably the only thing I also said, first appointment in the morning. When I woke up, they said, we're going to have breakfast at 7 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock you have your first therapy session, and it's for speech therapy. So I walked into, I walked. If I say that, I'm lying, because I was wheeling myself in my wheelchair all the time. Never got out of that unless I was in bed. And so I wheeled myself down to this room, and there's a really nice young lady who was there to do speech therapy. So she gave me some pages, and there were paragraphs. And there were these paragraphs that were designed to kind of catch you, not, I shouldn't even say that, to catch you. I never like catch you, right? Two different words. We don't lie to words, do we? Right? So they were designed to catch me making mistakes. And so I would carefully read through them. But she said, after about 25 minutes of this, going through these paragraphs, she said to me, I'm finding that you're swallowing or not pronouncing your last consonant in the word, or even sometimes your last syllable in the word. And you're going on, because speaking is in your left brain. My left brain is impacted, so I've got that issue going on. Right? So I thought, this is really weird. I've never realized I did that. So that I went back to my room, and I said to myself, what has happened, Peter? Because when you sing with choirs and things, you sing and you put those consonants exactly where they belong, and then right before the next word, and there's no blanks, we don't shorten the words, it's bam, and the rhythm makes it longer note, to hold the note, and then put the consonant, all there. I said, how could this have happened? What can I do about it? I came back in the morning, and she gave me the paragraphs to read again. I started the first paragraph, and I got done with the first paragraph. She says, how did you do that? It's perfect. One night in my room alone, right? I said, to be honest, I sang the page that you gave me without pitches. And the right brain filled in all those places that needed to be taken care of that I wasn't doing with the only left brain, right? Left brain usually talks. Left brain often sings. Just to give you an example, have you ever found yourself singing a hymn on Sunday morning, and while you're singing the hymn, you're thinking, that was an excellent exhortation, but the service is going along. Are we going to be home in time for the roast to get out before it's overcooked? Kind of stuff. You know, our right brain can do those things. You know, go off road while you're doing the hymn. It's just going over here, and that can be dangerous if you're there to try to praise God. And that's I submit to you. That's our reason for being there. So this whole concept is we have to find a way to be in our right brain when we're singing hymns. Not just the left brain, which is reading the words and seeing what's on the paper, but the right brain is going to say, okay, what do those words really mean? And how can I bring out the emotional content to make those words valid, to make them, to jump off the page and live a life? That's what music is about. That's what's so beautiful that God gave us music to do this. Because normally we wouldn't do this kind of worship, this kind of emotional commitment with Him. We'd be kind of going along our left brain, handling everything, not making the whole deal work. So that's probably all I should say. The other therapists were fabulous as well. I spent almost 4 weeks there with them. Then I got to go home. And since then, I've been doing a lot of therapy on my own. Like they said, oh, we want to make sure you have a walker at home, don't you? And I said, oh, yes. Now, we have 4 levels at our home, so I would have needed 4 walkers in my home. Leave one at each set of stairs. There's 7 steps going from the basement to the family room, to the living room, up to the third floor of the bedrooms. So I said, oh, of course. But in my mind, I was seeing the walker that I have that also blows snow. And I'm waiting for, when are we going to get snow? And then we had a snowstorm. So I pushed the button, started up the snowblower, and started walking down the sidewalk with it, right? And blowing snow everywhere. It was fabulous. And it was going slowly because we had 8-10 inches of snow at a time. So I was having to walk slowly, which said, okay, while you're walking slowly with the snowblower, you can practice heel, toe, and the left foot, heel, toe, left foot, right foot, heel, toe, to make sure that it does it, because it tends to want to go flat if I'm hurrying. This is one little thing so for the stroke. So it was a disturbing thing at first until I realized how many times I can actually practice heel toe. You know, leave early to go somewhere, walk slowly, heel toe, right? So I can do a lot of this stuff. And when I do it myself, there's no $40 copay. So anyway, that's the story about what happened. I'm grateful to God. I will tell you in my vernacular, I call it a stroke of good luck. However, it was God saying, I will take care of you. He was saying, COVID is really rampant, and you're not able to sing in any choirs or do any kind of musical performance or anything. This is a perfect time. And it was. I didn't miss a single rehearsal or performance or anything. And we did some of them, actually, where you record yourself on video, which is horrible. That's all left brain, right? Recording yourself singing with a microphone and singing to a pre-recorded track of music, but you can't hear anybody else. It is so frustrating because I know how wonderful it is to hear everybody else singing like we sing hymns together, right? It's all fabulous in that context. So when we have the ability to take this situation and make the most of it, it's like Brother Dan said, this is a revival, and it doesn't come out of your left brain. It's got to go over here and get updated to all the emotion that it should have to really become a revival, not in word only, but in spirit as well. So I probably should get going here, but we'll stay all night. Okay, there we are. At birth, the left brain and the right brain come to life. Now, if the doctor sees that you're born, and they cut the umbilical cord, and then he sees, oh, the child is not breathing. Turn him over, spank. Right brain says, ouch! It makes me cry. The left brain is saying, crying makes me breathe. Breathing is what I want to do. And from that moment on, that one instant, the left brain says, I got the breathing thing, I'm on it. Don't have to tell me again, I'm covered, right? Now, the right brain doesn't have a lot in it yet because it hasn't had a lot of experience. But the right brain is experience. You can look in a magazine and see a picture of Hawaii, right? It's pretty. It's not like being there. It's very, very little like that. So it's much like a hymn. It's on the page, but it isn't coming to life. We're not having a great time with it. So the brains are awakened, and I covered all that. Going forward, I covered that. I should have memorized this. Now, if the left brain is breathing and all of a sudden can't breathe, then it says, oh, got a problem, and goes to management over here on the right brain and says, I can't breathe. And management says, oh, let me get on it and help you with that. Because that's where the whole thing about how can I breathe again? I need to breathe, and the left brain can't figure out how to do it because it's a kind of, it's almost like a computer. It can't really think for itself unless you give it the right keyword or whatever. The right brain says, I'll think of anything I can to make you breathe again, and it does. In so many cases, we're so fortunate. So I grew up on the top of a mountain in Vermont, in Andover, Vermont. Yes, right, you go, Vermont. And it was away from anywhere. It was like quiet as, it was amazingly quiet. There was nothing up there except my mom and my dad and me. And they said I was a pretty good child. But my mom said when I was several months old, she said to me, no, I shouldn't say it that way. She's told me that she got me up from my nap, changed my diaper, and breastfed me, and then I started crying. She didn't know why, and of course I didn't know why. So she gave me to my dad, and he wouldn't stop crying. So she got up and walked over to the Victrola, right, wind it up, and put on a 78 RPM. Young people, talk to your grandparents about this, and let me show you what she played. Beethoven's Ninth Symphony in D minor. And as soon as I heard this music, my right brain says, "Ooh, where's that?" And I stopped crying, just like that. So then my mom said, "Oh, I think we figured something out here." So from then on, if I was crying, this came on. Now, and I should put this on. Records in 78 RPM language to this symphony. So every 3 minutes, the record had to be turned over or the new record had to be put on for the entire symphony. So there's 30 sides to the records, right? So my mom would be trying to get housework done or something. She goes, "I got 3 minutes." And then she'd come running back to turn the record over. "I got 3 minutes." I'd look back on it and feel sorry for her, right? So that went on, and she'd always get to the records and get me going, and it took care of a lot for me. I really was pretty happy with it. So then about almost 2 years later, and so I'm 2 now, and my little sister is born, my second of 3 sisters. And she was taking care of her more often and couldn't be putting my records on. But I wanted, so they promoted me to disc jockey for myself. So here I am, 2 years old, with a chair up next to the Victrola, winding it up, putting on record number 1, and listening for about 3 minutes, just like you just heard now, turning the record over, play it again down, take the record out of it and put it back in the sleeve and turn it so it's first side up. So when you open it up, it's always, it looked like a wedding album with like 15 sleeves to put records in, right? And so I would do that a lot. Any chance I got, I was in there playing that music. I don't know what it was, because I certainly didn't know the meaning of the music yet. I didn't have the value of it yet. I didn't enjoy it like I was going to later on. It just was there that I enjoyed a lot, so I would play it a lot, because otherwise it was really quiet up there on top of the mountain. Then, see, I'm telling all this from sort of from memory. We did that, and I almost have this memorized. A couple of years later, I started piano lessons, so I'm 4. And my mom would take me to piano lessons. I'd get a song assigned, come home, and she'd sit down with me and play and sit with me while I played and make sure I got it right. And so by day 2, it was going really well. By day 6 or 7, it was getting really good. And I'd go back to my lesson. The teacher was thrilled. Said, "You're doing so well." Well, talk to her. She's doing all the work, really. But anyway, she was helping me. So I was, and a little boy with positive reinforcement, not much to be reckoned with there. I mean, they're going to be happy. So I enjoyed it. So I kept going. And that's the secret of success in anything. Have fun doing it, and you're going to do it a lot. A year and a half later, I started first grade. We had moved into Weston, Vermont, which is the population about 200 at the time. This is if I was 4, this is 1950. Long time ago. And my school had 3 rooms. And in the first room was a row of first grade, a row of second grade, and a row of third grade. Then you got promoted to room 2, 4, 5, 6. Third room, 7, 8, 9. Then you can go to Springfield, and that was like Chester, you're right. I wasn't, I didn't know you then, so, but you're right, it was Chester, you're right. Anyway, that was a long trip to get to Chester from Weston. So, and my dad drove the school bus, by the way. So anyway, I did that and went through 4th grade there. I kept taking piano lessons and loving it. And then we ended up moving to Willoughby, Ohio. And I said to my parents, "I don't have to move with you, do I?" Because I like skiing a lot. And skiing is not what I hear about in Ohio. And we used to go to Bromley. My dad drove the school bus, but he was also school superintendent. And so and he also drove the snowplow for the city. So late at night, he and I would be out plowing snow on the roads. He says, "Wow, there's a foot of new powder here. We ought to go skiing tomorrow." So he would just call the operator. This is the old, well, for me, you stand up in a chair, and you speak into the mouthpiece, which is right steady there, and you ring the operator. Hi, Margaret. Well, hi, Peter. She knew my voice. So my dad would call. Hi, it's Bart. Says, would you call the 3 teachers and tell them we're going skiing at Bromley, and they can meet us there, or if they want to meet us at school, I'll swing by there on the way out, and we go skiing for the day. No red tape, no bureaucracy. Done. And he handled it all. Because a little town, you have to do all kinds of things to make the little town work. You only have about, divide 4 into 200, and that's 50. You only have 50 people to do things. That's it. So he would take us over. We'd go skiing for all day. It was fabulous. I also, at the time, even though I was having a lot of fun, was horribly shy. And I get a lot of responses to this. And my wife says, I rebounded way too far. But anyway, I was really shy because I could play the piano, and lots of people liked me to play the piano. They could have a dance, they could do talking. It was fabulous. I could be their entertainment. And I never got to talk with them or speak with them. I just played the piano, and they were happy. When I started 2nd grade, I moved into the middle row of my room, and I had worked up the intestinal fortitude to say to my teacher, we're starting to get into some larger numbers, like big numbers in 2nd grade. So I said, I have to tell you right up front, I will come to school because I know it's required. However, the largest number I'm ever going to need in my entire life is 88 for the keys on the piano. I don't need anything above 88. And she snickered, like, wait till you wakes up and smells the coffee. And then I said, oh, by the way, my alphabet goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and starts again at A. I don't need H, I, J, K. You can give all those letters to the other kids because I don't need them. I just need A to G. And I would, because that was my world, right? Now, when we moved to Willoughby, I volunteered. Now, I was trying to come out and be more outgoing. So I volunteered to be on the school crossing guard with the flag and the whole thing, walk. And they had a big contest sponsored by the AAA, and they said, we want a school safety slogan. So I thought, what better safety slogan for these kids than do C sharp or B flat? It wasn't chosen. I don't think anybody got it, but I thought it was a great one. Piano lessons continued, and things got better and better. And after 4 wonderful years at the Cleveland Institute of Music, where I went to high school and the whole thing, and I was interested in music, and I was really loving, really top-grade piano constructors and doing some really great classical piano music. The only thing that I didn't know at the time was that piano, well, I knew it wasn't there, but I didn't realize the importance. Piano music doesn't have any words. There are only a few Italian words that describe how you're supposed to play this, like presto is fast and largo is slow, and agitato means like agitated. All those words, they're in Italian because that's where a lot of this developed to tell you how to play. But otherwise, I was just playing notes. But I was learning how to make music out of those notes so that they came to life even though we weren't singing. After 4 wonderful years at the Institute, I made a decision, and it was hard, but I decided that I didn't have the skill set or mentality to be a professional musician. I had the conflict of saying, if I am going to negotiate a job with somebody, and I say I need this amount of money to play this music that I dearly love, I can't handle it. So I left and saying, I'll find another way to enjoy music. I want to keep it my best friend. I don't want it to be my slave. And it looking back, it made a whole lot of sense. At the time, it was really difficult for me. And God provided the answer by giving me the joy in music and getting me to where I could make use of my music in a wonderful situation. I met her in a nursing home. We're really old. But I worked there, and she came in with a friend, and we got talking, and I was training her friend on how to run the switchboard, and I would make all the chords, and you put the chord in here and do this and that stuff. And after 2 weeks of doing this every night, Melanie would come along. They say, every night, they say, we're going down to Baskin Robbins for ice cream. You want to come? And the shy boy says, no, I don't go down there with girls to eat ice cream. I'll go on my own. But I'm still not at that point where I realize the power of women. So, but they kept begging me, and so I finally went. And I'd sit there and eat my ice cream cone while they talked. Then on Friday night, 2 weeks out, my wife says, we're having a choir party at our church. Would you like to come? And I'm going, choir? Love choir. Party? No, don't do parties. I'm shy. I just sit on the side of the bench and wait for somebody to say hi or whatever, but I would be sitting there. I don't dance, I play piano. And they would beg me. So I finally had this war in my mind, piano, or rather choir, party, choir, party. Choir. My brains were going back and forth. The choir, my right brain lit up. The left brain went on party. So I finally bit off the big chunk and I said, okay, I'll go. And I got to meet people who became my in-laws and had a wonderful time. They were just precious people. And as we left and went home and I left Melanie, she said, do you want to come to church tomorrow morning? I said, well, sure. So I went the first morning after that first date, I went to church with her. Met more wonderful people. This is too good to be true. And after a little dating and engagement, and we were married 6 months later. And I could not be luckier. This is exactly what I needed, and she led me to it, all of you. The ability to make music with all of you, to play the piano while you sing, to find ways that can get you into your right brain and let you experience the true thrill of having a right brain light up. If they do a scan, it would be lit up red. It's really excited in our singing. We can do that. I'm going to play one more thing for you just to show you another example of it. That was the Beethoven first movement of the Ninth Symphony. The second one is actually, well, I'm going to skip that. We'll get back to that. The second movement was what those of you who are my age will remember the NBC Evening News with Chet Hundley and David Brinkley. And the theme music to that was the Beethoven Ninth Symphony, second movement. I would listen to the news religiously to hear that played. It's just fabulous, just fabulous. Who cares about the news, right? Get that music. It was amazing. So going over there. So I needed a way to make a living now that I'm trying to support a wife. And I got that going, and I went to a performance down in Blossom. It's a music center where the Cleveland Orchestra has summer venues there. All kinds of things happen there too, but it's a beautiful, a nice hill where you sit on the grass or sit in the main venue there. But the music is amazing. They get 10, 12, 14,000 people on the grass. It's just fabulous. And I went to a concert there. It was called the Ohio Bell Telephone Company Choir. And they had about 35 singers. And they had a combo of about 8 people, piano and about 7 instruments. Went to that. They were singing mostly things like Beach Boys, Beatles, some music from the 40s, all the good stuff, right? And it was in English, because up until now, all of my choral singing had been done in a foreign language, as most classical music is in not English. It's some other, like German, French, Latin, Italian, all the other languages. And so I was singing and making music, but not always understanding what I was singing, which is very valuable to really make music happen. You can do it with your left brain, or you can pop it over here and float out like fireworks going on. It's just amazing. I asked one of the men who in the choir, walking up the hill going to the parking lot, I said, so how do I join that choir? He said, oh, do you work for the phone company? I said, oh, no. He said, well, you have to work for the phone company. It's called the Ohio Bell Telephone Company Choir. So I said, how do I work for the phone company? And he said, well, call employment, I guess. So the next working day, early in the morning, I called employment and applied for any job they had. And there was a job in the customer service department. And I had the distinction, and the reason they wanted me, despite not knowing me at all, and not knowing some of the challenges that might happen on this, This was 1971, and back in 71, the government said, you will have equal employment opportunities for everybody. So all of your installers out there that happen to be men, we need some women doing that job. All of you men, the people, the women working in the offices and stuff, we need men doing that job. Well, here's the goal. 124 women on the floor. I was the first guy. Still relatively shy. But I had a huge advantage, and it's horrible to say this to you, but the advantage I had was that I had a male voice. So the outside world said, oh, he must be management. He just started today. But they assumed a huge assumption that I was some big important person just because my voice was low. And so it came a way that the people would start talking to the women there and so forth. If they needed something taken care of and the supervisor went there, they would say, this is what I told them. And I would go and tell the customer the same thing. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your efforts. I felt so guilty about it. But things have changed, haven't they? And we're so blessed for all that. But it's one of those things that culture doesn't work all the time. And so I had that privilege of being part of that. So I joined that company on a Monday morning. Before lunch, I was asking, where does the choir rehearse and what night? Because that's why I'm here. And they said, made some calls, found out, oh, it's Monday night. Oh, it's Monday. Oh. And it meets over at 7:50 here on, what time? 7 o'clock. Color me there. And I went to rehearsal the first night and sang in that choir for 30 years. It was fabulous. We sang all over the place. We were invited to sing in Washington for the president. We did all kinds of things. And it was a really neat experience. By the second year, actually it was the first year we were there, we were singing for the Home and Flower Show, big event in Cleveland. And I went over for my job, and I'm dressed in a tuxedo already, and I walk into the convention center, and one of the people came up and said, Ro Palante, he was our director, isn't here. I go, when's he going to get here? And they said, well, he's at the hospital. His wife had an aneurysm last night, and he's not going to be able to make it. And I said, well, who's going to direct? I'm being really honest here. I wasn't planning anything. I said, you're the only one that can pull this off because of your experience in music. So here I am with a brand new combo, the whole thing. We went through it, and they were exceptional. And you know what happens when people go, what are we going to do? Everybody gets to be helpful. And they start working, oh, I'll do this, I'll pay attention. Everybody jumps in and helps solve the problem. It's a fabulous way to take care of the issue. Make them more nervous about what's going to happen, and they'll come to. So I did that. Next Monday, I'm assistant director of this chorus that I wanted to join. and that's what I've done for 30 years. And I had many opportunities to direct it because he fell in the ice or he broke his arm or whatever. I mean, I was always there. I always knew the music because I was singing it anyway. I knew some secrets that he didn't know because I was in the middle of the choir like a double agent and could then say, oh, basses, here you are, right? They weren't getting loaded. So anyway, I've got to go on. After we did that with the choir and singing that, I came to the understanding with the English language that I could then start to see correlations between the actual words that we are singing and the music that goes with it, and how the music can enhance the emotional content of the words and make it more exciting and really bring it out. And so that brought to light that kind of thing. And then as I got to our meeting and was able to do that, and I started to come at them with the classical piano and the organ, just playing classical music. And I realized that everybody else wasn't getting into this classical music, but they really got into the words. And I realized I was trying to back the cart up. So when I switched over and saying, well, how can I make the words come out as more inspired, but let them lead in the feeling of the words, which is what makes them tick, it all came into place, and that's where I knew I should be. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm anywhere I can be when there's music and brothers and sisters, I want to be there. It's my personal belief that both of our brains need to be involved in singing hymns to express to our Heavenly Father how grateful we are to Him for providing everything that we have. How do you know if you're in your right brain while you're singing? When the introduction to the hymn begins. Begin getting up immediately. Don't wait for the introduction to end and then stop, and then we'll get up. Because our flow of the music is going to stop and we lose our momentum. You're getting onto a moving train in a sense by standing up, being ready to sing, taking a big breath, and let that introduction come around just like another verse would and sing right away. Now, if you want to be in your right brain, when you're standing up, picture yourself riding up this huge roller coaster, and it's going click, 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 you go up the hill, go up the hill, go up, get to the very top. Now you can see all over the area, the whole state, and we're starting down. Now is when you're in your right brain. When you go over the top of the hill, you've gone to your right brain without even trying because you're thrilled, right? This is going to be fascinating. It starts down immediately. Now we're having fun. Now, if you don't like roller coasters, I can understand that. Just pretend that you're in the roller coaster and bring that emotion that would normally be there and make that hymn start off immediately with all of your hearts, just anxious to praise our Heavenly Father in every way we can. One short video, and then we'll close it up. Now, when I tell you, you can see the bottom right corner of your screen. You might recognize somebody there. Now, this is a promo video. So it was done by a videographer who wasn't necessarily a musician. So sometimes the words in the mouth will not match what you're hearing. And I apologize for that, but it was just done for a promo for the 100th anniversary of the Cleveland Orchestra. So the music is there, the music as it should sound. It just doesn't add up like it would if we were singing live, but we rarely get to have a video of it, so I thought I'd share this with you. Last words. We have not had the privilege to sing together for several years. So let's use this opportunity to praise our Heavenly Father with every corpuscle in our bodies. Make it happen. This is a revival, and we can bring it to life. All of us. Thank you for your attention.